Okay. I think it's now time. Part of a series of articles that I'm trying to do. Next one focuses on white supremacy in Western Colorado, but just kind of our country as a whole. I think I used to be really touchy with this subject because I'd always say like, there has to be an alternative to some of the allegations. Like I think some of the left like to have a hair trigger using the word white supremacist, but at this point, I'd like to cover it. Just kind of what I've seen here in Western Colorado and how kind of living here has molded my perspective on race politics. So I think I'm going to title it, Say With Me, We Have a White Supremacy Problem. I believe this now. I think this one article will be a lot more tailored to opinion, obviously, but also one that helps me kind of retort some of the stuff that I hear, just like political discourse from friends, some family, people online, just kind of that kind of stuff. I wanted to be a full platform kind of in defense of why I think white supremacy is an issue in I mean here in Grand Junction, but in Western Colorado as a whole. The first thing how I want to start this off is I feel like being as blunt as possible rhetorically will give this article color, life, and otherwise it feels like I'm going to be tiptoeing around things, which I don't really want to do. I think I've become a little bit more firm in saying some of the things that I've been saying in my writing, and this is just kind of another practice in that. Being as blunt as possible, being confident in what I'm trying to say without giving up too much ground, is kind of my goal here. I understand I can be wrong. I understand I have kind of inherent biases that I am not aware of, but coming off strong like this, I think bodes well for just like rhetorical use and overall aesthetic of the thing. Now do I want to say Grand Junction or do I want to say Western Colorado? I think that is where I need to start off, where I think I use a lot of talking points that are on a national level. I don't believe that it can be kind of scaled down to a Grand Junction, to a Western Colorado, but if I'm going to be using national talking points, how am I going to translate it to a local level? That's kind of my thing. I'm going to say Western Colorado for right now, with the qualifier of like much like the rest of the country. I think that sentence, in essence, is contentious enough, and it gets enough of people's eyes to either one, say, yeah, I think so as well, I want to see more about it, or two, no, I think this is a ridiculous statement, I wonder what else he has to say. Which, if you do kind of land in that camp, you're probably not going to like this article all that much, but again, as I've mentioned, just kind of in my experience writing, I don't care whether you like it or not, I care that it's out there. I don't care if you agree with it or not. I care that it's adding to the debate, right? As we approach the election, bases from the Democratic and Republican parties are being excited and agitated to the point of violence, slander, and name calling. Why can't I say that? We've gone, well, I don't use the Oxford comma. I hate the Oxford comma. In AP style, I endorse it in regular writing, but in AP style, we get rid of it. Anecdotal. I go to Walmart, I go to City Market here, I go to anywhere, and Mesa County hasn't been hit as hard as other Colorado counties in terms of the coronavirus. We've lucked out in that regard, but as we're kind of approaching the beginning of a second wave, I feel like we've taken for granted kind of how lucky we have been. I think our area lends itself to open space, to social distance, to that kind of sporadic population, I guess, in terms of like we're outside a lot. We are we're doing hikes, we're running, we're biking, mountain biking, that kind of stuff. So I think that adds to why we have such relatively low amount of cases, depending who you ask. And it gave us a false sense of bravado. It gave us a false sense of confidence, where I believe we were really quick to kind of abandon that concept of wearing a mask. From the beginning, it's always kind of been a political issue. I really hate that it has become one. But I think now, especially when we're 20-some days away from the election, we are abandoning, well, that was hard to say, the kind of the mask issue as a health issue and more of a political issue, which again is even more frustrating to see. And you know what? I think a lot of that mask, that no mask kind of attitude does come from the right. I'm sure you could find instances somewhere about some lefties not wearing their mask for whatever one reason. But as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, from what I've seen anecdotally, most of these non-maskers, I guess, to give them a name, come from the right. And I believe that to be the case because it's like a distrust in government and a trust in their government. Does that make sense? So it's like, we don't want to wear a mask because we're not sheeple, but also, we got to listen to our party's kind of direction in terms of things. They like to use the argument, my body, my choice, as almost like a counter, and saying like, you claim my body, my choice, but then when we wear when we decide not to wear a mask, you are attacking us. Well, it's not. It's apples and oranges. It's not the same thing. When you borrow my body, my choice from the abortion kind of discussion, the abortion debate, and you kind of minimize it down to just a mask type of thing, we're not just saying that because we want you to wear a mask, because we are trying to force you to wear a mask. It's because we're trying to limit the spread of this thing, and by wearing a mask, we are protecting the masses. I do not care about you. I care about the good of the masses. And by you wearing a mask, you are helping us do that. It's quite shameful, I think, when that abortion kind of perspective is brought into the mask discussion, because it really does minimize the whole issue of abortion and access to abortion. It trivializes it, and I do hate that, and that's something that I wanted to cover here today in the article. So I think that's where I start, because a lot of the grievance it opens the door from this one particular avenue to kind of the rest of the point where I believe there's lines being drawn right at the most. Like, I think some agitators have a really good ability of going right up to the line and maybe not crossing it, but coming as close as they can before it's actually racism, before it's actually white supremacy, that kind of stuff. So I'll just start writing, I guess, so I can stop rambling. These two sentences are the same, so I'll probably have to delete one or change that. So I'm just gonna put that yellow. From the beginning of the pandemic, wearing a mask has been turned into a political issue. I go to Walmart. So I don't know if you guys have experienced this here in Grand Junction, but when you enter a store, you enter a local business, a Walmart or Target, whatever, and then someone without a mask walks in, and you exchange looks with people around you that are wearing masks, like in saying like, "Are you seeing this shit too?" And rarely have I seen someone kind of come up to them and saying like, "Hey, you should put on a mask," because it gets so contentious so quick. It's not to our benefit to walk up to somebody and say, "I would appreciate if you were to wear a mask," because it just turns into an argument really quickly. I've seen some stores give out masks at their front greeting area. I've seen some restaurants give out masks if a customer comes in without one. But they take it off at the table. They'll cross their T's, dot their I's as much as they want to until they sit down at the table, take off their mask. They're eating right at a restaurant. But you like at like a TJ Maxx or something like that, you see a greeter standing by the doors, and you see like a Karen or somebody not wearing their mask walking through the door. And I feel so bad for them, because if they say something, it's turned into a whole constitutional right type thing where it's not worth it anymore. It's not worth it anymore to have these discussions. And that is a shame, kind of on both sides parts, I guess. But it's a shame that that's where we're at now, where we're avoiding these discussions because we know it's not going to get us anywhere. Asking people to wear a mask is not going to get us anywhere anymore. If they have specifically chosen not to wear one as a statement, as a way to kind of express their ideologies, and to try to convince them otherwise is to now attack those ideologies. It's now to kind of attack their political agendas, is to attack their identity in essence. And that's hard to accept now that that's where we're at. I guess the simulation gets crazier and crazier by the week, but it's a shame. That's all I really want to say, and I think that's what I want to hit home here with this sentence. See, now that's why I was gonna go with the word protect, but I went with lowers instead, because if you when we have this discussion, when you say that wearing a mask protects you from the coronavirus, that's not all the way true. It lowers your chances. It won't Wearing a mask won't guarantee that you won't catch the coronavirus, I guess, or spread it if you already have it and are asymptomatic or something like that. It only lowers your chances. And we need to be hyper conscious of using that kind of language, because they will cling to anything. They will cling to anything to disprove your points, even down to the verbiage. It's not even about the idea anymore. It's down to the verbiage. And I don't know if you've ever had a discussion like that, but it's highly infuriating when you're having a discussion about whether masks do or do not help us kind of get us to the other side of this pandemic, where the other person's having a discussion of the wordage that you use, the lowers versus protects. Like, it's not about that. Even if it does not protect, it lowers. And even if I did mean lowers, if I put right here protect instead of lowers, and they went at me and they were right, whatever, what does it matter? It doesn't. But you need to have that kind of awareness when writing like this, because they will come and cling on to anything. Anyone that disagrees with you will find anything to disagree with you on. So yeah, just be hyper conscious of that kind of stuff. We'll use contracting. I need to be perfectly clear. Wearing a mask isn't about my politics. It's about protecting myself and others from. Okay. I put this in here just to kind of start talking about my opinion here. I don't know how much articles I want to start linking here. In my article, I don't know how many studies or anything like that. I think this is a complete opinion piece, and I think that's okay. I think the anti-maskers of Western Colorado are concerned with if being asked to put on a mask is constitutional or not. I think this is the core of the issue. It's mask for public safety, or it's anti-mask because does the government have the right to do that? I guess it's a good question. If we were after the pandemic, right, we could be talking about that. But the pandemic just does not care about your constitutional rights. At the end of the day, I mean, neither do I, to be honest, when we're talking about this kind of stuff. But a pandemic especially, does not care whether or not you want to wear this mask. Like, it's just a necessary step to protect the majority of us here in America, which we're doing a terrible job at containing this thing. Like, I think we're hitting 50,000 cases a day, which hasn't happened since like early August. So all cases are all trying to show that we're headed towards a second wave here. But this is the core of the issue, and something that needs to be the heart of this article. Ooh, okay, give me a sec. So what am I saying here? I don't think that it matters, because the pandemic simply does not care about your constitutional rights. Your constitutional rights are made up. They don't exist. We all have agreed as humans that we have certain unalienable rights and have bought into a system in which these rights are untouchable, but it's still a synthetic system that things like pathogens and cataclysmic events just do not take into consideration. Now, a meteor would not care. If a meteor, I've said this before, if a meteor is coming tomorrow, no, like half of us would not believe. You would just be like, okay, well, I mean, if it comes, it comes, right? But things like this, things like the coronavirus, do not care about our rights, honestly. And when they come into our kind of sphere when they come into the bubble, they burst the bubble of our civilization, then we really need to start having these discussions on whether or not we need to have kind of contingency plans for these types of things, because at the end of the day, we need to be concerned about our survival, right? So it's the question of, is our survival more important than our unalienable rights that we have bought into? That's the thing. It's either the things that we believe to be true versus our survival. Would we die? Would we choose to die if that means that we at least have the dignity of having our rights? And I think that's the core of the issue. I think that's the core of the debate there. And even when put like that, I think there's reason enough for other people to believe that that's the case. get distracted easy. Okay, I make that point. This is true. It's an assumption that I'm making here. Not all of them are. Some of them wear masks. Some of them have pre-existing conditions. But this is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that the base here is, the radicalized base here is who is not kind of complying. And on purpose, because they think compliance is, for whatever reason, a bad thing. Ooh. I probably shouldn't put that. So, Trump gets COVID-19. He most likely survives. But from this point in time, there are a few likely scenarios that happens. He gets it, which he does. He survives it, which is likely, and he uses rhetoric to suggest that it's no big deal and anyone could tank it. If DTJ or DJ, what is the acronym? DJT. Wow, that was hard. Can survive it, anyone can. That's what they're going to be thinking. I would be in the camp of saying if Donald Trump could get it, anyone could get it. But since kind of this radical base has been touting a hoax for so long, I fear that the former idea will prevail, which is unfortunate. The second thing that happens is, and this is several days after his diagnosis, is he gets it, he obviously dies, Pence takes over, and then the base is left without, it's like a power vacuum. Like, the party is so centered around a president now that if he were to leave, if he were to die, there's a power vacuum, because it's like a strong arm system, where someone has to take control from there, which obviously it would be Pence, but they wouldn't be as energized. Like, Pence is a piece of cardboard compared to Trump. Compared to you and me, he's oatmeal. But that's what happens in the second scenario, and then they're not as radicalized, or they become even more, and Trump becomes a martyr. That would be the ultimate move on his part, and he becomes a Reagan-esque figure for the Republican Party, where they say our economy was so strong, our country was such in a right position, and then he died. And then obviously there'll be like QAnon conspiracies saying that they gave him COVID on purpose and stuff like that, which that would probably be like the worst timeline, in my opinion. That would be the worst timeline if Donald Trump dies, because that just opens up a can of worms that I don't think any of us want to go down. And he contracted COVID, and everyone's like, oh, prayers, thoughts and prayers. How dare you cover this, or how dare you kind of celebrate him getting it like it's like celebrating anyone else? Yes and no. It's kind of crazy how the leader of this kind of like hoax, China virus type of rhetoric has been given some sort of divine justice, divine karma, to do this, and I think some people are justified in being excited for it. It's like it is something to be in awe over, that in these most historical times this happens. This will be what our generation will be known as, kind of like this COVID time period. Like, after any of us have been long gone, they're going to be thinking about kind of what happened during the COVID era, and this is going to be something for the history books as well. What is the pro-Trump talking points at this point? Economy's great. Unemployment is down. What else do we hear? I'll put brackets here because I honestly do not know. How do you... Okay. We'll continue. The possibility of repealing Roe v. Wade. That should be capitalized. So in essence, when you have a strong arm system like this and your strong arm dies literally, there's not much left to kind of cling on to except for that possibility of a Roe v. Wade overturn, which is interesting. I don't think it will happen, even if they do confirm the justice, which I think they will. I do not think this will be overturned. I think with that, I'm just gonna end it. I'm getting really worked up. See ya.